Welcome to the Partners Podcast, where you get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to entrepreneurs who are relentlessly building real, profitable companies. Join us as we ask them the hard questions so you can take away the mindset, strategy, and tactics that launch them to success. Welcome to another episode of the Partners Podcast. I'm joined by the famous Ridge Krauss.
Bro, don't call me famous. I'm not quite there yet, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
And then get your last name right once again.
Yeah, you got
Kraus?
it. Yeah, you got it this time
Kraus?
after 5 tries. But hey, that's all we need, right?
Yeah.
I'll go by whatever though.
People that know me have known me for like years now still butcher my last name. I wonder if you can get it on your first try.
I don't even know if I've pronounced it correctly. Is it? Oh goodness. Okay, there's 3 letters. I have like 50-50 shot here. Is it just Sue or is it Hugh? Is it like one of those is silent, isn't it?
Shoe, like the shoe on your foot.
Bro, I had like a three chances and I butchered all of them.
It's all good, all good.
Shoe. Okay. I knew that. I was making sure you knew that.
Dude, I love your content first off. Like everything you put on social has such a sense of humor and lightheartedness to it that makes kind of like my high school quote, my yearbook quote come to life. My high school yearbook quote was, "Life is too short to be taken seriously."
Yep, amen to that, dude.
You embody that a little bit.
Well, I appreciate it, man. It's funny. When I first started with content, I think most people, I guess we're just diving right into it, not to derail, but usually most people, when they first start making content, it's really nerve-wracking. Like when I first started, if you scroll back, content's embarrassing, bro. But that's the case with everyone, right? It's just a natural part of the journey. But it's funny because I kind of started, I watch a lot of other creators. Obviously, I think everyone that is big watches other people. And I was like, what works well, what doesn't? And at the end of the day, what I found works the best are things that are different that aren't replicated by anyone else. So like, I can't say this works the best because no one else is doing it. It's usually one person. And so I was like, okay. So I quickly came to the realization that I was struggling for a long time in building my brand when I was just copying other people. And I think everyone does that to an extent. I still do that to an extent, right? I'll copy other people. I think everyone does. But I didn't really start to have things click, I don't think, until I really just fell into like who I was and who I helped and why people would even care to listen to me over someone else. And it's funny because I test out a lot of ads, and testing ads is really what helped me too with figuring out what works and what doesn't, because I was able to just get it out there at scale. And yeah, as soon as I started being like more lighthearted, but at the same time have like sincerity and seriousness in it, that's when things really started to like click. And a lot, like, dude, every time we have so many conversations in the DMs and then also like sales calls, every time everyone says the same thing, which is, I'm like, why me? Like, why'd you want to talk to me and like nobody else or anyone else? And they always say the same thing, which is there's just something about the content that feels more transparent and feels more real and authentic, which is good to hear that. That means I'm like on the right page. But I don't really take it seriously. It's like, here's how I think I can help. You can take it if you want, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. So what was your personality like as a kid? Have you like had a big transformation? Because the only thing I know about you as a kid is that you wrote an email recently saying you would give permission to slap your former self.
Yeah.
So I can assume that you were kind of a brat. You were kind of like, full of yourself. Like, who were you as a kid though, before that?
I'll tell you, and then I want to hear what you were like as a kid after this. But when I was younger, I was a shithead, man. I had specifically in high school. So I don't really look at or consider middle school or anything previous to that. I feel like I was just a child. Like I really was I had no sense of self at that point. But high school is when I started to kind of fall into who I was and who I wanted to be. But even then, I think the biggest trait that I had was just a really massive sense of arrogance with no foundation. And I think I talked about that a little bit in that email, because I felt like I was really confident, but it came across as arrogance because the confidence wasn't backed up by any results or experience. I was just some kid with arrogance. At the end of the day, it was like, why are you this way? Like, you don't know what you're doing. You have no experience. You fail all your classes. I graduated with like a 2.1 cumulative GPA, I think, out of high school. It was horrible. And I wish I could say that oh, I didn't get good grades because school just wasn't for me and I wanted to learn how to build a business and this and that. But in reality, I was just lazy at the time. Like I was just lazy. I'd done a lot of reflection on that time of like, why was I that case? Why did I just not care? Because it's not like I didn't apply myself in school and then apply myself elsewhere. I didn't really apply myself
Why
anywhere.
were you lazy though? What'd you
What's
do
that?
instead? Why were you lazy? I'm sure you weren't lazy about some stuff in your life. What were
Right.
you
So
passionate about?
music. I was in band and like I was in marching band and I also took like IB International Baccalaureate like music theory and composition classes. I got
Well, let
good
me
grades at
ask you, were
those.
you lazy about that? Were you lazy about music?
No, I got not straight A's. I got a couple B's, but I got night and day difference in music. And so that's when I really started finding like the creative outlet. And I wanted to be like a musician for a long time. It's funny because like I'm good at math, but I passed all my tests, but I just didn't do any in the homework. So I think I was smart. I just didn't apply myself, you know. And my parents were really worried about me. Like my dad came to me and he was like, "You have three options. You're either going to serve a mission for the church that we were a part of. You're either going to go to college or you're going to join the military. You have one of those, right? If you can't get into college, you're going to go on a mission or you're going to join the military." And I was like, I don't want to do any of those things. So anyway, going back to it though. So yeah, music was like a creative outlet, but then I wanted to have that be my career. And then I took a year off when I graduated high school, worked with my dad's business, and then I went to college for a year for film with a minor in entrepreneurship, which I think is really funny. It's kind of like an oxymoron in my opinion at this point. Like go to get a degree in entrepreneurship. Um,
Yeah.
but I went for a year and then I dropped out. And real quick, because entrepreneurship, like, dude, none of the professors actually built any businesses worthwhile. Maybe a
Yep.
couple of them built something maybe making 10 grand a month, you know, but
My senior year class, level 400, I lasted all the way to getting my degree. I took an entrepreneur class and I turned in an assignment I wrote in high school, in junior year of high school, and I got an A minus for my entire team. Didn't change anything but the people's names on the front of the cover page, and I think I changed the name of the products just so if they looked it up, it wouldn't come up. But I wrote a business plan in high school that I turned in on my level 400 class like final assignment, and it was like a business plan for a tech product. It was a smart router, basically. Like if you plugged in USBs to everything, everything would just be automatically connected. And I'm surprised that even 4 years later, it's still considered innovative. Because, anyways,
I was in high
yeah,
school.
that just told me how much bogus, like college was. Like that, I could get away with that. And
So did you say you went to college? Do you have a
yeah,
degree?
I got a degree in marketing, international business,
Hmm.
and did 4 years. Similar to you, man. I didn't take school that seriously, but I was still smart. I didn't apply
Mm-hmm.
myself that much, but I averaged like a B plus. B for Brendan. So, but that's it for myself. Recently, I found out I have the ideal Asian blood type, A plus, and then my sister's like, why not A plus plus?
Oh my god.
It's funny. But yeah, I mean, I totally get it, man. Like college, especially entrepreneurship and business, like a lot of the stuff you learn. And I'm hearing that it's changing from people that I talk to that it's more applied now, but like just so much theory and so little application and so little real
Mm.
world, like, practice that, like I think for a lot of us, like you and I, it's hard to learn without actually doing it, actually putting
Oh
it into
yeah,
practice. Like theory and homework is one thing, but like actually building a business and executing and getting clients is a whole
and that's so
uh,
true.
another
Like, dude,
sport.
that's so true. The amount of times that I think this kind of parallels the amount of times I'll talk to people or just even hear or watch people that spend way too much time planning, ideating, and like researching and learning. I think is like incredibly important. But I think there's a threshold of like when you've learned enough and then you need to take action in order to learn the rest because the rate that I started like learning was so accelerated when I was just taking action and failing and figuring out on my own as opposed to like just learning, you know what I mean? Because it's one thing to read books, take courses and consider yourself an expert until which you can't until you actually go do it. Which is crazy because I've gotten decent success. Like I make like okay money with a small team for like a 25-year-old, but like, dude, I'm nowhere near like where you're at or where. And it's funny because most of the guys that I surround myself with, actually almost all of them,
Actually,
are so much better or ahead than I
perspective
am.
though, I was nowhere where you're at when I was 25. I
That's what
was,
everyone says. I just feel
yeah,
like they're like, well, dude, we're like when I was 20, and I was like, yeah, sure, but yeah, I guess that's true. I just feel
it's
like,
it's hard. You can't be always comparing yourself to other people, right? Because they grew up in a different environment.
yeah,
They had different upbringing. They had different access
of
to different
course, it's
things.
hard not to though, man. Like I'm sure we all do it, and at the end of the day, I think it can be bad. Like it can be negative or it can be a positive, depending on how you look at it, right? Because you can either look at it as, oh well, dude, Brendan is like light years ahead of me. How am I ever going to get there? Might as well just not even try. Like there's a lot of people that view it that way. Then there's guys like me where I get excited to hang out with people like you, like my buddy Ocean, guys that are kind enough to even put a little bit into me, like some of their energy into me, surround myself with those guys and be like, dude, I'm so excited to be at the level of this guy or at the level of this dude, right? Like everyone that like is in my like circle, I just gravitate to. I'm like with you, when I met you, I was like, bro, I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I want to do something with you. You know what I mean?
It was the opposite
Selfishly,
for
but
me because you have something that I felt like I didn't have, and it was like you got the social media and content game down, and I've been working at it in different ways and at different angles, and I'm trying, with this podcast, I'm trying with a few other things, but yeah, like when I saw you, you were someone who I placed in my mind higher, right? Little did I know I had all of these other things, my previous accomplishments and what I'm working on
yeah, I just
that
make videos.
made you say, "Wow, like I want to learn from this guy." And
Yeah.
I mean, that's just business, right? You look at other aspects. Like, dude, I was watching reels of this super jack guy pretending to be a janitor, like lifting up weights like that, and like
Yeah, yep.
I forget his handle. I just found my girlfriend just showed it to me, and I'm just like, dude, there's levels to all of it, and some people think it's just about money, and little do they know, like all of a sudden they get hit with something related to health, whether it's their family or themselves, and then boom, like you get humbled. It's just like you thought you were a millionaire, but like if your health is on the line, you would give up those $1 million, right, to be healthy again. And so
Mm.
this last year for me has been more so about balance and more so about like finding a happy medium between the time I spend with my friends, the time I spend with my mastermind and my business partners, and then the time I spend on myself for my health, my spirituality, and my relationship with my puppy and my girlfriend. And so finding that balance has been definitely tricky. Understanding like because like I used to be obsessive, 80 hours a week on the business, and
Dang.
that was partially the reason why I got to where I'm at. I made those sacrifices, and now I don't have to make as big of sacrifices. But
Hmm.
like you said, it's not. It's definitely easy to find yourself comparing yourself to other people that you see on social. But yeah, it's also like that perspective is what helps you a lot in having that humility to be like, hey, I'm trying my best every day, and I got something to learn from everyone, and I'm not the best. When did you humble yourself? I guess would be the next question. Like you used to
Ah,
be entitled, and you used to be like thinking you're the shit,
well,
like, have that arrogance. Like how did you
yeah.
tame that?
Well, that's the question. I think first of all, I feel like I still have a bit in me. I feel like it has a little more backing in terms of like I've actually done something now, but I still have it, and I still try to like. There's this quote that I love, which is have the arrogance to believe that you can do it better than anybody else, but then also ensure that you have the humility to actually do it and actually back it up. Meaning, like, it's one thing to be confident and like arrogant that you are capable of X. It's another to and not be able to actually deliver, and it's another to actually have that and then have it be backed up, right, with proof that okay, you actually do know what you're doing, but at the same time balancing it with like I still have so far to go, right?
Yeah,
So I think what really happened was I I, I think a better question to ask first is why did I have that in the first place? Because I think there's a lot of guys. When I sent that email out, I got a lot of replies of guys saying, "Dude, I have a very similar story," which is interesting because I don't think I really realized that. But I was arrogant, and it's like, for what? I haven't done anything. I'm failing in school. Like I had a very nice cushy upbringing. Like it'd be really cool for me to say I like rags to riches, like I went from nothing, like horrible household, but dude, I was coddled, man. Like I had such a good family. My dad was definitely pretty hardcore. He was a ranger, and then he was in Delta, so he was a tier 1 operator in the military, and then he transitioned to running a business where they do contracts for the military. Like he's a hard dude, but he also made a lot of money, and we had a super nice house growing up. Didn't really have crazy like um, chores to do, or they weren't really strict. Like it was cushy, right? So I had a nice upbringing, so I didn't know what it was like to have nothing. Um, and so I think that arrogance kind of came with like, yeah, I've got a great life, and this and that. Which when I look back on, I still don't even really know why it was that case. But what
Well,
changed?
I think for me, yeah, I can
Yeah.
relate, but for me, it was like it was from a sense of like I didn't have it, so I had to put on a shield. I didn't have like the
Yep.
confidence to be with the people I wanted to be with, like whether it's attractive women or like hang out with the cool kids. That I had to like pretend to be cool, and in
I agree.
reality, it was just really hurting me because like I was one being someone who I wasn't. Two, like people were like why are you acting this way? Why are you acting so like mysterious and cool and like like emo? And I mean I don't know, there's so many ways to describe it. Like I don't think I was an emo kid, but I was trying to like just be so cool. But I was like, you just look at me and I looked at myself in the mirror, you're like, you're not cool. Like come on dude, who are you fooling?
Yeah, sure. Like same thing over here, right? It was to mask deeper insecurities, right? That I just were subconscious that I wasn't even aware of. I think what changed was literally just being humbled, right? And what happened was the day that I graduated high school, I got my diploma. The next day, we packed up all of our stuff and drove from Ohio to Las Vegas. And I took a year off from school. I didn't go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do, who I was, anything like that. And I just helped my dad with the family business out there. So I went from cushy small town Ohio to moving out to Las Vegas of all cities.
What's the
Um,
fan biz?
and what's that?
What's the family business?
It was well, it's so they had to liquidate it and shut it down when COVID hit. But it was called Apocalypse Vegas. It was this big entertainment venue right off the strip. And dude, it was ranked number 3 out of all fun and games to do in Las Vegas on TripAdvisor in terms of ratings and reviews. It was wild. There's nothing like it in the world. So basically, it was run by a bunch of former special ops guys. You come in, you get tickets as a regular civilian, bachelor parties, you name it. Come in, get tickets. You get like an airsoft gun, and then you get trained by these guys, like how to clear rooms, how to breach doors, sight and target practice, how to search for SSE, like intelligence, all that stuff. And then you get trained for the first 30 minutes and like go through little like activities and exercises. And then all of a sudden, all the lights shut off, and it's inside this big 40,000 square foot warehouse, and it's separated by like a big barrier. The lights shut off, air raid sirens turn on, explosions start happening. There's a bunch of like, there's $250,000 just in special effects. Like it's crazy. And so then you go in, and there's this Universal Studios type movie set where there's like 13 full scale, fully furnished homes. There's streets, wrecked cars, actual cars, and
Wow,
there's a bunch of live zombie actors. And so you go in with your team, and you're basically like shooting zombies and trying to find like the cure to the virus to save the world. It's like this big adrenaline
that
rush
sounds so
experience,
cool.
right? So it was really cool. It was wild.
Is it
Like,
still around? I want to do
no,
it next time I
dude,
go.
they shut it down a while ago. My dad had it for 5 years. I remember they had the concept, and like his business partner brought it up to him. They're having a big meeting, and he was like, "Here's the idea." And he was like, "You're high. Like nobody's ever done anything even remotely close to that before. You want to do it in Vegas. The overhead alone was over 6 figures a month just to run the place, for rent on the warehouse, for payroll, for everything. Insurance was ridiculous. I mean, you can only imagine they go into insurance companies telling them what you want to do, and they're like, "What do you want to do?" So, dude, it was insane. It was crazy. It was all over the news. Like it was a massive business opportunity. Like he took all the money he was making from the contracting and just basically funneled in that. He was making no money, went to millions of dollars in debt. My dad was at a really low point when that all happened. So that's like a whole story in and of itself. COVID hit, they shut down the entire strip. They had to shut the business down. They didn't know how long it was going to be shut down for. They were already not even profitable. And he was like, I can't sustain 6 figures in overhead to maintain this and like rent this out. We're not making any money. So they had to shut everything down. And now he's just focusing on the contracting. But that's what I went to help with. I did like sales, selling tickets, worked at the front counter, which are all positions I've never had experience in before. So I took a year, I did that. And then I got complacent there because, I was the boss's kid. I still had that arrogance in me. Like I was like, yeah, I'm this. And people were like, dude, who's this chump that thinks he's like this shit? And I was just like making $2,000 a month selling tickets at the front counter.
There's movie
So
characters based around you, your person, that personality type.
what's that?
There's definitely movie characters based around that personality type. Like
Yeah,
the manager's
absolutely.
son or like the owner's son.
Absolutely. So I did that for like a year, and then I got an opportunity from Black Rifle Coffee. So you know who that is, right? Super big company out in San Antonio. That's where they're based. So Black Rifle Coffee Company, they went public like I think a couple years ago for like a $1.2 billion IPO or something like that. It was crazy.
Nuts.
Huge, massive coffee company.
You
And they're
want to know
known for their YouTube.
something crazy? That's a huge company, and I never heard of the name. Not that I don't drink coffee; I drink it here and there. I'm not a coffee person, but like that just shows how big the world is and how much opportunity there is. Like when there's a company, like
Mhm.
I found out like there's this company like like super microcomputing or something like SMCI, and the stock like did a 10x, and it's like one of the closest like companies like related to Nvidia. Like the owners of each companies are like buddies and stuff,
Oh wow.
like the main founders. And I had like no idea, and I'm like, how did I like miss out on this stock that did like a 10x and now it's worth like 70 billion, and I've never even heard of it. And that just shows how insignificant and how unlike you know like not important like what we think is important is like when there's a $70 billion company that you've never even heard of, and there's a $1.5 billion coffee brand that you never heard of, like, and we're just here trying to get
Yeah,
after our first
focusing on
couple
our little
million.
things. Yeah, no,
Like
that's
give me
for
I
sure.
want 1 million this year. That's a lot. So
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting just from a perspective, like, dude, we ain't shit. And
yeah,
like
right.
that's humbling when you can be like, oh yeah, I worked at this company that was 1.5 billion that just IPO'd, and
Yeah, dude.
and then you're
Uh,
like, you probably heard of it. I'm like, I haven't, but it's just like it just makes all of our stories not that significant. So, but I do like the context of the story of how it can provide inspiration. So let's continue.
Well, yeah, it's. So I mean, they're a big company. They're really known for their social presence. They've got over 1 million followers on Instagram. I think they have over 1 million on YouTube now, subscribers. Like they're known for their videos, their content, and all that stuff. They have a big production team, and I was their lead video guy back in like 2019. So I worked there for a year. I learned a ton, and I think that's when I really started to change because I picked everything up from Vegas, and that was the first time I moved away and like I was on my own, just by myself, working for a totally new company. They made a post on Full Time Filmmaker. Actually, the owner did. And he was like, "We're looking for someone," and there are like 50 people that are like, holy shit, Black Rifle, like I want to apply. Cause like the application picture was of a Black Hawk hovering over a NASCAR, like, or like a Subaru, like doing drifting, and then like an explosion happening over top, like in a dirt bike jumping over. It was wild. It was like, you're going to make content like this, like insane stuff.
Yeah,
So everyone applied. And because I worked with like veterans already and they're veteran owned, that was a big like foot in the door. And somehow my dad already knew him. So he was like, let me call him up. So they were able to get that connection. And so I went out there and they're like, come out for 3 months on like a probationary period. We'll see how you do. So I went out there, worked my ass off, ended up bringing me on as an employee. I was making like $3,500 a month, dude. And they were working me like crazy. But I learned a ton. And when I was there, I lived on a ranch in the middle of like a 3,000 acre valley. And it was like it slept 20 people. And I had to sleep there and like live there for 3 months with no one.
wow.
I got to know anyone. So that really like humbled me because I realized like I was at the bottom. I was making $3,500 a month in a brand new city. I knew nothing out here. I had no friends. And so I just like I had to figure stuff out. So that was kind of the shift for me.
Yeah, I have a
Um,
question. You say you learned a lot, did you learn because you had to, and they threw you into like the deep, and you were like, I need to figure this out on my own, or did you have like a boss and a mentor that were like actually, or like a manager that was actually coaching you on what you need to
Well,
learn?
both. But it's funny because they're. I think one of the reasons why they're so successful is because as a company they have infrastructure, they have a ton of team, but they're so run and gun. Like organizations definitely there, but especially on the content side, things are so last minute. Like they would
Mhm.
come to office on a day and be like, "We just wrote a script. It's a great idea. Grab the camera. We're gonna go film it." And it was like, it was crazy. It was so fast paced, and like I spent like 80 hours editing this one documentary, this like mini doc that was like 12 minutes on YouTube. I think it's got over 2 million views now, which was dope. But it was still run and gun, and like it wasn't really organized. And because it was run by a bunch of former veterans, um, it's not the most organized like corporate entity. So, but at the end of the day, even if it was, like, I was still, I had the fact that I had no friends, I didn't know a single person that was out there, and I lived on a ranch in the middle of nowhere, like where it was just silent and there was like no Wi-Fi. Like it was pretty brutal to the point where like I started to get kind of depressed. And I was afraid to move out there. Like I didn't want to go because I was so comfortable at in Vegas. I was like, I don't want it. Like part of me didn't want to go do that, but I knew I needed to because my dad told me I was like, I don't know if I want to go. He was like, name one good reason why. And I couldn't come up with one. He was like, you need to go and you're going to go because respectfully, you need to get your shit kicked in a little bit. And I remember when he told me that and I was like, okay, you're right. So I really haven't gone in through like hard stuff. So that was really the beginning. And then I got a job as a media director out in California, giving you the cliff notes now. Moved out there 2020, COVID hit, lost my job, got unemployment. That was my opportunity where I was like, okay, I want to start to build something in 2020. So like I made my LLC, moved out to Boise, Idaho, same thing, started over. And I was like, I'm just going to try to build a business from the ground up here. And I just started going to like networking events and finally landed my first like retainer client after 4 months of just trying to convince people to pay me. And then, started building it from there. But that's kind of like the stuff that I like kind
So
of did.
you went from brat, spoiled kid to getting your teeth kicked in a little bit because you had a real job to trying your hand at an agency.
Mm-hmm.
What was the first, second, third, fourth year looking like? And you recently made a transition over to helping other agency owners grow. Why did
Yeah.
like how did you go from I think you got all the way up to like 30, $40,000 a month, right? Like why did you choose to transition over and how did you build up to that
Well,
30, 40?
yeah. So it was, first of all, I want to go back and say it's funny because like, I still feel like I feel like I get more and more humbled as I get older, just because like the wisdom paradox, right? The more you learn and the more information you take in, the more you realize how much you don't know. So it's like the more you learn, the dumber you feel in a sense, like not really, but also kind of. So I feel like as I like make more money, I start realizing how easy it is to make money, but also how far I still have to go. So it's almost like that illusion, like those movies where you're walking towards a hallway down a door, but as you're moving closer, it gets further away. Anyway, just an idea that was interesting. But so yeah, first year, dude, I was just slinging stuff against a wall, hoping someone would pay me so I could pay my bills. Like that was it. Unemployment was running out, and I wasn't able to pay my bills. I wasn't able to pay my bills, and like I had to figure something out, or because I had like a $1,500 a month rent on an apartment, and then my car payment and insurance and all that stuff. So finally, after like a month, I was overdrawn on my account. I got a real estate agent to pay me like $3,000 a month to do some content for him, and I just really focused on trying to deliver good results for that. And so I think I went for a solid year, barely able to get past like 5K a month as a solo videographer, right? Where that was it. I didn't know anything about marketing. I was just good at like making cool videos. And then during that time, I like kind of made a little bit of a mess in a good way of trying to run ads, trying to figure out how to run ads. Like, how does the business manager work? How do ads work? Like, I pay money to get leads, but like, how do I get those leads? Like, how do I formulate good ads? And ended up losing a bunch of money. But the good news is I told my agent, like, let me run ads for you. Just give me the ad spend. I won't charge you for management. I just want to figure it out. And so I spent like several months trying to figure that out. I ran ads for another company and another company, and I was never able to get good results. And I was like, I don't understand how to do this. So I started buying into more courses. And long story short, I was stuck around 10K a month. And then 2022 is when things started to really shift. And then 2023 is when things kind of evened out, where I was able to get around like 30K a month, upper like close to 40 on a few good months, but for the most part, fairly consistent around 30. But I had really good profit margins, but I was also working a lot. Like I didn't really know what I was doing. I was making good money, and I didn't like I had a really lean team. I was like 70% margins, like just having a shooter and then a couple editors. But I was doing most of the stuff on my own. But I ended up niching down because I was like, I got to be an expert. I can't just be generalized, or else it's gonna be hard to scale anything. So as soon as I niched, that's when things started to kind of unlock for me, and I started to scale. And then I niched into
What
the
does niche
info product
mean?
space.
I make videos or I make X type of videos
So
for.
niche as in like who is the industry, who is the audience that you're working with specifically. And I don't mean like service providers because that's not a niche because there could be
Yeah.
attorneys, CPAs, like there's so many different types of service providers. So when I said niche, I ended up working with coaches and people that sold info products, right? Because I love education, not to be confused with traditional education system, but I love like streamlined education direct from the source of somebody who's done what you want to learn how to do. And I love that idea because it's
Like
significantly
it's a
cheaper than
better ROI than college.
much better ROI, much more streamlined, much faster to get the result, and you can learn directly from the person that you look up to that you want to learn from. So I bought into a few courses, and that's when things started to really ramp up, and that's also why I believe in what I'm doing so much now and selling is because I'm like, dude, I don't feel guilty to sell at all. I will sell all day long because A, we know to get results for people, and B, I have spent tens of thousands of dollars, probably more than 50 at this point over the past couple of years. And it's only going to go up from there on masterminds, coaching, mentorships, because I believe in it so much. I believe it's a way to like just streamline so you don't have to figure stuff out on your own. So you don't have to waste thousands of dollars in mistakes, waste months of your time, and just learn from someone who's already doing it. So, so I started doing that. And then I got to a point where I was working with info products and coaches by creating their organic content to build their brands as well as their funnel content. So like their VSLs, their paid ads, thank you page videos, retargeting ads, all that stuff. So basically all the video content for their paid and organic side of things to sell more. And I ended up getting really smart with like how it works, like how to sell, how to build a brand, like just basically the info product space. And because I got good at it, I started doing a little bit more than like just making videos. I brought in my buddy who's really good at funnel building and copywriting, and him and I would work with some brands and charge like, 10K plus a month just to help them. And so I realized when you become an expert at something, you can charge a lot more and it's a lot easier to close deals because your messaging is very specific with who you're talking to. So I got to a point where I had a lot of my close friends and close like peers in the space that I was working with ask me, they're like, dude, you've got good results. Like you're making more than a lot of like videographers that are struggling and you're helping info products. Why don't like, instead of continuing to make other people like other coaches a lot of money, why don't you just make your own coaching program? Because you know how to do it and you have achieved a result that you could sell to a lot of people. Sure, I'm not at the level that like you're at or a lot of other guys are at, but if I'm at a level like 4 or 5, maybe you can sell to level 1 through 4, right?
Exactly.
And you can help them
I
scale,
think
right? And then they get to
that's the whole
5.
premise of mentorship, right? You just need to learn. Well, the whole premise is you just got to be one step ahead, right,
Mm-hmm.
of whoever you're looking to teach, and the best person you can serve is the person that you just were, and the person who is looking to become where you're like what you've achieved, and the like some people might think like a good mentor would be like the most successful person like Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett, but they're so far ahead that they're
Mm-hmm.
unrelatable to you. And
Yeah.
so absolutely it makes sense like for you, like you being at whatever level you're at, let's just say 4 or 5, and being able to get people from 1, 2, 3 to 4 to 5,
Yeah.
like that itself is like a whole target demographic that is looking to be served, is looking to like who can get me to 4, who can get me to 5 is exactly
Yeah.
who they're seeking out.
Because it's like like guys like you with the program that you've got like my and then like Austin Schneider, like there's a lot of guys that are in the same space, but they're not teaching the guys that are stuck around 5 to 10 that want to scale to like 30, 40. They're primarily speaking to agency owners that are already around 40 to 50 but need to reshift their infrastructure to be able to handle multiple 6 figures a month, right? And so it's like what it's going to take to do that and how you're going to build is a totally different process than like what I'm teaching. And I think that's where a lot of people make mistakes is like, they'll just listen to Alex Ramosi and do whatever he says. And it's like, okay, well, first of all, it's super generalized. Second of all, where he's at is 5,000 steps ahead of where you are right now. You just need to focus on step 2, 3, 4, 5, then figure out where to go from there next. Right. Because in my opinion, like, unless you're making 10K a month at like 5 to 10 minimum, I don't recommend running ads. Like we have a very specific roadmap in the program where it's like, if you're around 0 to 5K a month, here are the tactics we're going to implement in order to get to 5 to 10. Once you're at 5 to 10, then we shift priorities and now we focus on XYZ, right? So like the operations for scaling. So it's like 0 to 5, we're focused on footwork, sweat equity, cold outbound, free. Like just we need to get leads and we need to prove the offer and prove the concept and get proof of results and case studies. Then 5 to 10, we should have that. Then we have a little bit of capital to start learning ads and start investing into those. Then when you're at 10 and you want to go from 10 to 15, we now need to start building out the infrastructure, make sure we have the team that can handle. So you know what I mean? So it's like very calculated with how we scale. Because I feel like
Yeah.
too many programs, this is what I've found and what I don't want to do. Too many programs, especially as they start to get really big, they start to become a lot more hands off and it's a lot more generalized with run these ads, do this and do that. When it's like a lot of guys don't even really have the proof of concept yet. They don't have their niche. And there's a lot of foundational things that aren't there before they should start doing that, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that we focus on too.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's a little bit like how I've structured my curriculum, but still a little bit more customized because when someone's at 20 to 30, like everyone got there in a different way. Some people got there strictly on referrals. Other people have got
Oh
there
yeah.
with a proven like actual offer. Some people got there in 5 years. Some people got there in 1 year. And what we found also is that depending on how you got there and who you are, there's different things that you're missing. You know, some people got there because their product was great and they didn't need to learn how to sell at all because their product literally sold itself, but that can only get you so far, right? And they still are looking for that business
Mm.
side, understanding how to negotiate, consult at a higher level. And that's where, like the program that I'm running is unique because we're trying to come up with a game plan for people that are anywhere between 20 to 50K on average a month, and we're trying to solve for usually one or two of five different themes. How do you grow your revenue? How do you scale your systems? How do you build your team? How do you improve on social media and marketing? And then how do you improve on your actual product and your creative strategy around the product and the offering? So those five things is usually what agency owners are missing, or they lack. They're at like a 70% or 50% with one or two of those. And they're usually like big themes that takes anywhere between like 1 to 3 to even 6 months to truly hone in, right? To
Mhm.
understand how to hire and build a team. It's not something that you just figure out in like a one week process. It's something
Yeah.
that you have to go through the trial and error of. Sometimes agency owners or like business owners, they're too proud to even admit they don't know how to do it until they get kicked in the teeth and they're like, I hired someone who stole half of my clients. And I'm like, if we'd had talked earlier, I would have helped you
Mm.
avoid this with this and this procedure and step. And nothing's foolproof when you're dealing with human beings because there's always that variable that's unknown. With
Yeah.
someone might tell you what you want to hear, but not deliver on results. And this is like, okay, well, how do you learn how to fire fast? How do you learn how to hold high expectations and actually track and manage them, or track their KPIs and manage expectations, right? So, um, I guess to go full circle, I really like that you have a custom planet, but it makes a lot more sense when people are at 0 to like 5,000. There's like a pretty clear like path to success. It's like you gotta have some level of hustle. You don't have like
Yeah. And
$1,000 to spend on ads.
usually we don't even like unless you're making 5 on the low end, like it's
Yeah,
just not probably going to be a good fit. There's been a couple guys we let in, but that's because they were like super hungry and they're like, dude, I'll do whatever it takes. I want to work with you. And I'm like, all right, bro, it might take a little longer and we're gonna have to do some stuff at the beginning just to get your feet wet. But for the most part, it's like ideally that first part, like 0 to 5 is like the hardest part. It's just like proving that you know what you do and getting anyone to accept you and like doing free work. It's like, dude, just
and
get the
proving
case
that
studies.
proving that you're willing to work too.
Yeah, yeah,
Some
yeah,
people like are
exactly.
stuck below five because I'm like, so how much did you work last week? What'd you do yesterday?
Yeah.
And we can't really give you
Or yeah,
enough.
or it's like, what do you need the most help with? Lead gen. Okay, well, what are you currently trying to do to get leads? It's like, are you just waiting for people to come to you?
Yeah, it's there's two things you can do. You're either putting trading your time for money, right? You're putting in the effort and hustle to like just trade, you know, your effort, whether it's DMing people, calling them, showing up at BNI groups, which I
Mm.
know you're not a fan of, which I can appreciate. And because what you said really makes sense. Like the people at BNI groups are usually the employees of the companies trying to get business for themselves because they heard that's
I'm
what
making
they
a YouTube video on this actually, but like I think networking, fantastic. Like I think you need to go out there and get good at like talking to people, especially at the beginning stages. But I just don't go to BNI. Like that's the only thing I
yeah,
say.
to
It's
show
like
up
just be
into
strategic
a
with where
room
you're
of
going.
20 people, that's the same 20 people each time, and they're all trying to,
Yeah,
sell you their product, and you're like, I'm trying to get business and
yeah.
referrals, and but
And
it
like
works. I mean,
maybe a couple of them are business owners, but even then, they're not really business owners. They're just like solopreneurs, you know?
yeah, if you can structure it right, I think there's if you have a really compelling product, I think there's always someone that knows someone who's willing to buy. But yeah, I like how you unpack that. At the 0 to 5, there's like a framework. From the 10 to 20, there's a framework, and that's exactly what I think a lot of people need, because the reason why they're stuck is because they haven't shifted their framework. They're like, "Oh, I got to 10K doing X, Y, and Z. I'm just going to
Yeah,
keep
keep
doing
doing the
X, Y,
same
and
thing.
Z."
Yeah.
And it does work to a certain extent, but is it going to get you there as fast as you
There's
want
going
to
to be a
get
bottleneck
there?
too.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to be bottlenecked at some point. So it's like
Yeah, at
identify
some
it.
point you got to make a hire. At some point you got to automate a
Yeah.
system, because you can't, like if you're doing everything, you can't just multiply yourself by two,
Yeah,
overnight.
for sure. So with okay, ACRE, right? With the coaching that you have, can you give me first of all, we'll start high and then go a little more deep, because I want to get like I think we can shed some sauce, some value in this specific podcast for guys that are listening, because obviously the audience is agency owners that are trying to scale, right? From like a high level perspective. So ACRE, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys
Just
help
acre. You can
content.
acre
What's
for
that?
sure. Acre, like a
Acre.
land, a plot of
Cool.
land.
Okay.
Acre.
Yeah, that makes sense. Acre. It does it stand for something, or is it just acre?
So it's paying tribute to Aerial Canvas, my first company in real estate
Real
media
canvas real estate.
and
Okay.
real estate, and then I just kind of mashed the
Gotcha.
letters together, and it made sense because it was like short and sweet and memorable,
Yeah.
and it referenced to something that's relatable to real estate.
Gotcha. Okay. So Acre Acre partner, right?
Yeah.
With the program that you have, who do you help, and then what is the offer? Like, what is the time frame? What all is included, and then what is the outcome that you're helping get them to?
Yeah. So our audience are agency owners in real estate media doing $10,000 to $20,000 a month, maybe up to 50. That's primarily who we're helping.
You say
And
agency, like content specifically, or like running paid ads, lead gen for real estate agents? Like what kind of
real
agencies?
estate media, like real
Yeah. Yeah.
estate
Okay.
photographers, real estate videographers that are shooting listings, that are helping
Hmm.
agents film reels for social media, helping take some branded content here and there,
Yep.
portraits, lifestyle shoots, mainly like listing related and media branding related
Hmm.
agencies that are in
Okay.
real estate.
Gotcha. And then what is the so like people jump in, what are the main things that you focus on? And like what's it look like? So for us, for example, it's a 4 month intensive that includes one-on-one coaching, group coaching weekly, and then like
Yeah.
course curriculum,
So our
community.
flagship program is 1 year, and it's a pretty significant investment. It's $12,000 up front, one time, and that $12,000 upfront one time gets them lifetime access to all of our trainings, all of our white label assets. So imagine all the resources that I put into growing Aerial Canvas, my first
Mhm.
real estate media company, to $7 million a year. Those are training procedures, like standard operating documents, white label, or like
Dude, definitely a lot more than $12,000
yeah,
value.
marketing assets that we used, white label like websites, or I mean,
Wow.
basically everything that we created for ourselves with what we paid our managers, what we paid our consultants, all of that white label to you for 12,000. So it's basically like you get to franchise and license everything that we did for ourselves for a fraction of what you would pay for a franchise and licensing fee to any sort
Hmm.
of half decent Jamba Juice
Okay.
type franchise, right?
That's cool.
For a fraction of the cost, and we're not conceited and so self-centered enough that you need to slap our logo on your brand. You can keep your brand and have us empower you and give you everything you need to succeed. So we'll give you all the white label assets that we created for our company, but also the trainings for both yourself and your team. So if you think about how much it would
Dang.
cost to invest
Wow.
in bringing on a manager, right? A
Yeah.
manager that's that has any sort of track record and experience is probably going to be starting out 70, $80,000 for a tenth of what you would spend on a manager salary. You can get access to everything that we created and all those trainings and structure and frameworks to be successful with running your company without having to hire a manager. And a manager usually we found isn't effective unless they're creating insane gains amongst like 10 people. For a manager to justify a 100K salary, if they're managing, let's just say 10 people at 50K, they would need to generate $5,000 worth of efficiency gains, 10% efficiency gains amongst 10 people. If you have one manager managing one other person, he needs, like, if the manager is not an actual role player and doing the work, which is something that we found out, is it's like, if you're going to hire a manager, make sure that they're also a role player, that they're not just
Hmm.
sitting behind a desk telling people what to do and not doing the actual work themselves. Because for any manager to be justified, they need to create more than excess of what you're paying them in terms of gains for what they're managing, right? So we found that out pretty quick. And so essentially, you get all the trainings and all the frameworks for measuring success and managing your employees without having to bring on a manager, right? A manager is actually quite ineffective unless you're a role player. And so uh, that's one aspect of what you get
That's a
instead of
crazy
hiring a
value
manager.
stack,
You
bro.
hire us.
That's
Yeah.
dope. I also love how you break down like, well, here's what you get for the cost for the investment versus your other option, which is like hire a manager, like build it your, like if you do it yourself, it's going to cost you this much more. And then you break it down. Like that's a crazy value stack. Dude, you're basically just
Yeah.
giving them everything like templated, and it's like just basically copy paste. Like obviously shift it for your brand, but take what already has
Yeah.
worked for us to build a $7 million a year agency. Yeah, that's huge. So that's
Yeah.
dope. That's
And
awesome.
then
Okay.
that's just the beginning, right? We also have our weekly workshops where we invite guests. There's one guest that we brought on who is running another $10 million a year agency. There's one guest that we're like we've brought on Luxury Presence as a partner that has over 8,000 agents that are working with them on high level websites, and we're trying to bridge that gap between the clients they serve and the clients we serve, so we can cross pollinate more opportunities.
Dang.
And so we're essentially fractionalizing help and fractionalizing
Yep.
results. And so instead of paying a manager who can only help you with one aspect of your business, you get access to myself, three other agency owners that are all at seven figures plus a year, and you get access to everything that we've built for our companies for a fraction of the amount. And the vision is, our goal is the faster we can help these agency owners crush it, the faster they're in a position to become our business partners. So this is more like
Wow.
as like an incubator for potential future partnerships beyond just them paying us for help, but us going into business together.
Yeah, I like that model a lot. I know a few other guys that are doing a similar thing where it's like the incubator idea where you come in. Actually, yeah, I know a few people that are doing a very similar model. Okay, yeah, that's awesome. So,
And then we
um,
have our community channels where it's on Slack, which is
is
like a
this
Discord.
all just 12K for the flagship for a year?
Yeah, so it's 12K as a one-time investment, and then the flagship is anywhere between $1,000 to $2,000 a month. And then we also have some special pricing for those who want to take action because we found that action takers see the
Hmm.
most results and they're the easiest to work with. The people that are a little bit on the fence and not A type and wanting to just take their business and 2x it and get the team in place. They're usually people that we have to end up chasing down to help them see
Yeah.
results, which is not fun. And so we do charge more for the average person to join, but action takers, reach out to us. We'll get you better pricing.
Yeah, that's dope. So okay, so question for you then. So with what you've seen and been in this space and like building your own agency as well as helping other people, this is kind of a broad question, but I want to hear what you would say.
Yeah.
From a macro level, guys that are hovering around 10K a month with an agency, um, content agency specifically, what are the biggest bottlenecks slash things that you see that they're struggling with for the most part? Like if you could think of like 3 to 5 of the top things that most guys are struggling with that like order of priority to fix.
Well, within our business model, like any agency owner on their own should be able to handle close to $15,000 to $20,000 worth of monthly revenue before
Just
they
by themselves, solo.
yeah, before they
Yeah.
cap out. And
Mhm.
so if you're at 10, at least, and I'm just going to speak to our industry because I know it better. And it means either if you're capped out at 10, it just means your prices are too low or you
Yeah.
don't have like a product that is working and selling itself like a no-brainer type offer. And lastly, like you don't have the systems and automate like the systems in place where you can manage all these projects, because managing 20K worth of projects is actually super doable if you have good systems.
Mhm.
Like and it's not that many projects for us. Our average project is usually around $400 to $500, and getting to 20K a month is essentially doing 40 of those projects a month
Yeah.
to a day.
And is in your eyes, in your opinion, what makes a no-brainer offer with your model, your industry, like doing real estate media? Is it really just low price, quick delivery time? What all do you think plays into a no-brainer offer?
So it's evolved in the last couple of years. When we first got started, the no-brainer offer that we were able to deliver was photos, video, drone, Matterport, and a property website that they got to keep for free for life, because we were partnered with a website company that provided lifetime hosting. We delivered all of that starting at like $1,000. And back then, other agents had to piecemeal together the solution, and it would cost them 1,500.
Mm.
So that's still something that we've seen work in a lot of markets, that if you can offer more than just photos and bundle the solutions together, you're able to sell a higher ticket and you're able to sell more often, because real estate prices are appreciating. Agents are now being able to afford, in the past they could only afford photos, but now their budget has gone from 250 per listing to $500 per listing, and they're more than excited and happy to get a reel and some drone photos and the photos for $500. And so if you can package together more solutions
Hmm.
and sell it as a one click service, like they book with you, they get everything delivered the next day, then for most markets that's a pretty compelling offer if you can do it at a good rate. And so in terms of evolving this, we've seen certain companies do a really good job of differentiating themselves by really understanding what is trending on social media. So if you know how to create a trendy reel for real estate, like this is what $1.5 million gets you in this city, or like wait till you see this amenity, or wait till you see
Hmm.
this feature of the house, and also tie in the agent personality where you're building that brand, you can now create a much better offer at maybe $1,000 and get the agents to spend twice as much. But that's only enabled if you really have an understanding for social media
Yeah.
and you really understand. Like most of the agency owners that we're working with, they're like in many ways a glorified electrician or plumber. They're offering a pretty standardized service,
Hmm.
and it's again, it's like Elon Musk said it quite well. It's a game of pennies and it's a game of micro improvements. If you can be 10-20% better in each aspect, 10-20% better in quality, 10-20% better in value, and I'm not saying it has to be the lowest price, but it has to be the best value, right? How can you stack more value to a $500 service? Oh, I know. You can work with a website company that can create property websites for free or for $10, and what you would normally charge an agent for 50 or 100, you can just package it in because it costs you 10. So you can
Hmm.
deliver $100 more value for $10 of cost.
Yeah, 100%.
So
That makes sense.
hopefully that all makes sense. It's definitely a little bit more nuanced. It's like, how do you create a no-brainer offer when it comes to HVAC, right?
Yeah.
It's not a super sexy, offer, but it's like it's a game of making 10-20% improvements in how you take care of the clients, how fast you answer the phone, how fast you deliver on the product, how well you handle revisions. The quality of your photos is 10-20% better. The quality of your reels looks 10-20% better. And when you
Hmm.
combine all of those things together, now you have a product that's twice as good for the same price.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. What do you think in terms of like client acquisition within your space, is it like what are the main methods you guys teach? Is it really like maximizing current relationships and like referrals, or like what all different acquisition lead methods do you guys teach or have?
Yeah, so when it comes to acquiring more business at a good rate, it's all about like how much you spend to make a dollar back. It's all about figuring out how you can create leverage. How you can create leverage is you can get your agents to become ambassadors for you, to be a referral engine for you, and we
Mhm.
have a 5-step referral strategy that we teach. It's about gaining leverage through partnerships with brokerages, making one relationship that gets you access to 10, 20, 50, 100 people at a time, right? If I became the known and trusted go-to person for 3 agents, I might take that relationship and pursue a brokerage relationship and get that broker to now endorse me and support me in serving 100 of their agents, right? So
Yep.
you translate one project to 3, and now a 3 to 100 in terms of opportunities. Another
Yeah.
way is to leverage your energy in terms of social media. You can make one post, and that post can be seen by 500, 1,000, 2,000 agents. And that can be improved if you consistently have a pretty good lead development system where we go in. We actually have a service we built, which we hire and train a VA to go out and comment, follow
Mm.
agents within the local market that we're looking to serve, and warm them up, get them to see that we like their stuff, have them look at our content, and then engage them in a quick message and an offer. And the reason that makes sense is it's also leveraged, right? If you can hire a VA to do it, if you can hire a VA to do it for $5 an hour and you value your time at 30, that's a great trade.
Oh yeah.
That's something that you should be doing anyways. And so it's all about finding leverage trades. And that's simply, the same concept behind a lot of good marketing and sales is just like, how do you take one action or take one investment and take one campaign and be able to get a 10x return. And so you can get a 10x return by having one conversation with an agent as a referral partner and getting them to send 10 referrals to you in a year. You can do that with one relationship with a brokerage where you work with 10 of their agents, but now you work with all of their agents, and now you've 10x that. Hey, instead of you taking your limited time to do outreach and work your social media, you can get a 10x return on your time, because if your time is worth 50 and you can pay a VA for 5, boom, all of a sudden you're getting a 10x ROI immediately just by what you're trading your money for time, versus your time for money.
Yeah. 100%. How do you think this recent NAR lawsuit is going to affect the market of agents?
Um,
Or have you do you
I think it's
looked
going to
into it
do
much?
what it's always done. The market's going to figure out itself. The people that are providing value to the market are going to keep rising up. If you're helping agents as a real estate media company get more exposure, get more eyeballs, earn a commission in a way where they deserve the commission,
Yeah.
then any sort of agent like client would be happy to pay whatever percentage if they see the value is there, right? And the free market's just going to work itself out the way it should. And whether that's giving, who knows, like agents might become really cheap all of a sudden because they feel like their commissions are going to get cut and they're not going to make as much, and they stop spending on social media. I can tell you those agents that stopped spending money weren't probably agents that were going to put too
Yeah.
much money in your pocket to begin with. The
Yeah.
people
It's probably
that,
just going to filter out and
yeah,
weed out the agents
yeah,
that aren't going
it's
to make it. And yeah.
exactly. And the people that understand the value of social and understand the value that they bring to their clients, their rates are going to stay the same, and they're just going to double down on what's working for them.
Yeah. 100%. Dude, we're just at an hour into this thing. This is awesome. Thanks for chatting.
Well, we should talk more about you. Like before we hop off, if you got like another two
I got time.
minutes,
Yeah. Yeah.
can you tell us like who you're looking to serve right now and like who best like who best can be benefited from your program?
Yeah. So honestly, videographers that want to build a business, but right now are unfortunately just kind of stuck in the creative zone, not really knowing how to operate a business and also not knowing much about marketing, that are already making some money, but need help with dialing in the offer, dialing in the niche, and then dialing in an acquisition system to start getting leads predictably. And then also systems and fulfillment on the back end. So, yeah, in a nutshell, it's like videographers that are struggling to build a predictable business and are kind of just in that feast to famine cycle. That want to just dial in the offer and that lead acquisition to really scale up to get to 20, 30K a month. Um, in a nutshell, that's pretty much who we help right now.
What's an example of a good offer? If there's an agency owner or like a videographer just getting started doing 5-10K a month, what like let's just say they serve lawyers. I don't know if you work with
Yeah,
anyone
yeah,
like that.
we've got a few that are crushing it right now,
What would be
actually.
a good
Attorneys.
offer for a lawyer?
Well, so if you like pull back what makes a good offer, right? Just from like a principle and idea perspective, what makes a good offer is basically like providing as many resources as you can in a way that minimizes the time investment and the effort and sacrifice and um the time delay that somebody has. I mean, like
Yeah.
Hermosi's book, $100 million offer, is a perfect example of the value equation, right? So what most videographers do is make videos. So let's use a niche example of like coaches, info products, people that sell that stuff. Um, for one, is there a need for video? Absolutely. Is there a need for just video? Well, kind of not really. Like the video needs to be leveraged and utilized properly. How? By building a predictable brand organically, leveraging ads to bring people into the funnel, into the ecosystem, and then book calls. And then also help with like paid funnel sequences. So like ads, VSLs, thank you page, automations, all that stuff. So there's a ton of opportunity for video. Unfortunately, most videographers know how to make cool videos, but they know nothing about marketing. So if you need to understand how to be a good copywriter, so you can understand like, okay, we're gonna make a VSL. How do we structure it? Because a lot of times, if you're going to be helping people, unless they're really dialed, which they're a dream client, they already have a copywriter, they already have media buyers, they already have everyone to fulfill. They literally just need someone to make a cool video, and they'll tell you how to do it. That's great. There's a lot of people that don't know that. So it's important to understand like how to craft videos that's actually going to produce results. And that involves understanding the audience, specifically who you're working with, and then how those videos need to be leveraged in order to produce the result. So in my opinion, a really good offer for the, like, we'll use the coaching space for most corporate businesses, in my opinion, is a done for you / done with you hybrid offer. So that is done for you video content that also includes done with you like consulting to make sure that you know how to implement that properly, whether that's you run the ads for them or you ensure they have the right team in the back end to run ads properly. In my opinion, that's like a really, really solid offer. So there's a couple guys in here that have like basic modules where basically like you buy in, we create all the content for you. But if you're building a personal brand, they need to know how to make good content. And most people don't know how to do that. They'll just sit down, hit record, and do an interview and pull some of it and then post it when like it's not really going to perform. So how do we make it easier for the client? Make a bunch of modules, and it's like, cool, we bought in. Here's gonna be our first shoot day. It's super structured. Here's our onboarding. Here's what to expect. Before our first shoot day, watch these 4 videos in order to get prepared for it, and then also use these resources on how to craft like what's the structure for really good content. Here are some hook templates we have, and then here's some examples of really well performing videos in your niche. And we need you to come prepared with 20 ideas. And then they don't need to be super polished, but 20 ideas, spend an hour to put them together, give them all the resources to make it as easy as possible. Then you show up and then help guide them along the way to make sure it actually performs, right? So
Very cool.
it's literally just thinking, how can we make the process of the client as easy as possible? So we're not just showing up, hitting record, and delivering edits, but like, how can we do it A to Z? And
Yeah.
then most importantly, systematize it so that way we can automate as much as possible.
Yeah, that all makes sense. And you mentioned Hermosi's value equation. How do you increase the perceived likelihood of the outcome? How do you increase the like? how do you like help them achieve that dream outcome, and how do
Hmm.
you decrease like the effort that they need to put in, and like
Time
all of
delay.
that totally makes
Yeah.
sense. So cool, I love it. Well, Rich, for those who want to get in contact with you, how do they find you?
Follow me on Instagram if you're not already. Cinemarketer.io or just Ridge Krauss. Yeah, Instagram is the way to go. That's where I spend all my time.
Yeah, and I love the content you're putting out. Tremendously valuable. Thanks again,
Thanks,
brother.
dude. Appreciate it. Thanks, bro.